Okay, awesome. Welcome everyone to our design systems panel here. You already know some of us on stage, so we don't need to introduce Anton again, Seba as well, me. We already gave a talk, I would only pass the word quickly to João and Michael for them to introduce themselves quickly.
Hello, everyone. I'm João. I'm the head of design systems for Nubank. Nubank is the largest digital bank outside of Asia. We serve 135 million customers across Latin America, and now we're expanding into the United States. We'll be talking to you after the coffee break, so you'll be like re-energized after the coffee. Yeah, so glad to be here. Thank you.
Morning, I'm Michael Thomsen. I have worked on Dart and Flutter for more than a decade at Google, and I currently lead the product team for Dart, Flutter, Go, and Jenkins.
Awesome, thanks a lot. As already mentioned, we didn't have the chance to ask any questions right after the talks, so this panel is meant to be very collaborative. So if you have any questions about the sessions before, or also about the topics that we're going to discuss on this panel, no worries, just raise your hand and we're happy to take your questions. Before you maybe make up your mind about your questions, I would like to give the word quickly to Michael, because Albert already mentioned that the Flutter team at Google has decided to move Material and Cupertino out of the Flutter framework. Albert already made a quick introduction about this. I would like to give Michael the chance to briefly comment on that while you have the chance to gather your questions.
Sure, I'm happy to talk about that at sort of a high level, why we're doing it and what we're hoping to get from it. And I think we might talk more about some of the themes here that are around it in the AMA later today too. At the highest level, there are two fundamental problems we are trying to solve. The first one is how can we create more of a collaborative efforts that makes it easy for the whole community to contribute to the two design systems that we provide in box today, Material and Cupertino. It's not easy today. Contributing to the core Flutter repo is quite hard. It's been built up over a long period. There's a lot of rules and ways of engaging there, and it takes a long time to create your PR. It takes even longer to get it in, and once you do that, it takes a long time before it goes out because the release cadence is kind of slow, right? So it's just not easy to contribute to. Not for ourselves and not for anyone else in this room or beyond. So we want to try and solve that and make it a lot easier to evolve. But even if we do that, there is a very big problem around evolution and APIs and compatibility in general. The Flutter framework is sort of one unit of versioning today. So when we ship a new stable SDK and you take that stable SDK, you take everything that's in that stable SDK and it gets forced on you when you take it. So if we wanted to make an API change in, say, Cupertino, for example, because something evolved in the way Cupertino should be, and most of those changes tend to be breaking because they're fairly large changes. And if we just make that change, it means 3 months later when that goes out in stable, everybody gets to take that SDK change, gets that breaking change forced on them. That makes it really hard to evolve, right? Like there's a very long process around announcing breaking changes and building migration tools and all those things. Luckily, we've already solved this to some extent on the Dart side for a long time because we build packages instead. And you can put packages on pub, and packages can be versioned. There can be multiple versions in play at any point in time, and in the big distribution of customers, not everybody has to be on the same version, right? Like you put into your pubsec what version you want to depend on. So one of the main motivations of pulling these design systems out of the framework is to enable us to version them separately, so that they can evolve on their own timelines, and so that you as app developers can pick them up on your own timelines. And that then leads back to the first thing I led with, which is contribution. It also makes it a lot easier to contribute. If there's a quick change that's needed by a bunch of people, we can just publish a new incremental version. If there's a bigger initiative, we can work on the vNext version of the package in parallel. And there's just a lot of ergonomics we get by putting things into packages. So those are the two like high-level reasons.
Yeah, awesome, thanks. And basically, with Material and Cupertino being moved out of the Flutter framework, and then to what Albert already showed, basically having more and more basic primitive components, it will be even easier for us to now build our own custom design systems. With that, are there any questions in the audience already? Yes, Vadim, please.
I will give you the microphone. Yes. And just please, for everybody else as well, just please tell your name and the company you work for before we begin.
Hey, my name is Vadim and I'm working for myself. I have a question because I already saw the raw widgets, and raw widgets actually pretty cool for the sake of implementing like radio, checkbox and other stuff. Do we also expect to have something a bit more complex like navigation bar or etc.? Yeah, that's pretty. Thanks.
I can offer my perspective. That's a great question, but it's a hard one, right? And I don't know if everyone, I didn't talk about this before, so let me just mention like the backdrop here. When we started pulling these widgets out, one thing we realized is that there are a lot of base behaviors that were sort of sitting at the wrong layer. I think most of you, when you start to learn Flutter, you learn like the Flutter layer cake, like the diagram with the green dart boxes and the yellow C++ boxes, and then like the embedders below, right? And the two upper layers of the green boxes are first like the two widget systems, and then the widget-based behaviors below. In the imports, this is like Flutter/widgets versus Flutter/Cupertino and Material, right? And we always had those as two separate layers, but just over time, as things evolved, we'd put a lot of stuff into Cupertino and Material that we actually realized should have been a level down. So one of the reasons why it's taken such a long time for us to like move Cupertino and Material into packages is that it wasn't just a straight move. We spent a lot of time refactoring and moving code from Cupertino and Material down into widgets, and thus ended up creating this raw widget layer. And that's where like a ton of time has been spent. I don't think that will ever be done, but it's certainly getting more done. And I think as it gets more done, we can start to ask the questions of like, how many abstractions do we need there? And what is the right level of abstraction? This is a very hard problem because we also keep, spanning more platforms, and something like a navigation bar is not fundamentally the same across a lot of platforms, right? So I don't have an answer, but it's a long way of saying I don't have that. I don't have it because it's sort of an evolutionary thing we need to work through.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I guess it will certainly be easier now also for the community to contribute to that, right? So I mean, there's it's very hard to only rely on Google's resources shipping that, but we are a big community as Flutter developers, so it will certainly be easier for it. And Vadim, if you are interested in it, you can contribute to it.
No, I really appreciate that part because I know it's pretty hard. I know.
Awesome. Any other questions already? Okay, then let's continue with the first block of the panel. And I mean, as this event is mostly steered toward agentic development, let's jump into that topic for the start. And I'm curious, João, we haven't had the chance to see you on stage yet. How would you say have coding agents changed your, especially UI and design system development workflow in the past?
Right. So we've been iterating and testing different approaches in that sense, both on the creative side of the design system, on how we can leverage the brand expression through the design system on its different layers, and also the actual workflow reinvention on the engineering side. So how can we expedite the deliverable of new components or variation of components, and also reduce friction on the contribution process? Because today at Nubank, our design system, just so you get a general picture, we are 10,000 employees 230 designers, and 3,000 engineers. So although we are a centralized team of 30 people, a multidisciplinary team, we receive contributions across the whole company from different markets and products lines. And today we still face some friction on the contribution because of the inherent complexities of our architecture. So AI is also helping us expedite both the creative side and the code generation side, and this will be a huge lever. So this is one of our key motivations. We have recently concluded a pilot phase on components generation using a set of different code agents, about 10 different agents coordinated, creating the code that's adherent to our specific architecture that you're going to see in a while. We lever the power of Flutter as the basis, but also server-driven UI as a content distribution mechanism, along with enforced governance on some of the most important design touch points in the experience. I guess one of the points that the AI is still not there yet, I would say, it's mostly on the creative side, because the quality of the output in terms of design quality, narrative quality, adherence to the brand it's not quite there in the level of quality that we require. So much of that iteration still happens on the human side. So it's more than the human on the loop. It's the human leading the creative side, but something that we delegated to the agents are the handoff files, the QA part, also the documentation generation. So these more manual and operational tasks on the creative side are now led by the agents. So that we have more space for designers to discuss across different markets and products. What's the best design? What are the sensorial aspects of the design, including motion, sound, haptics, animations, also all of the accessibility features that are bundled in every Nudes components. So I would say this is the picture we got at the moment. The code part is evolving, the creative part still has to evolve a lot to reach the level of quality that we require, but we are super excited with this revolution and transformation. Yeah. Cool. Anyone else would like to talk about the agents?
Yeah, I think with agents, it's just that you have to have the agent know about the design system to also actually use it. And it, as I showed earlier in like our agents file and in our skills, it actually doesn't take that much in order to steer the agent to use it. And that gets even better the more obviously references it has. So I think, for example, our success with just telling the agent to use harmonized components was also largely successful because like it basically was able to just look at the code base and see that basically everything was already built with the component, and it really tries to follow these patterns. So I think that is an important thing, that tell the agent to do it and give the agent something as reference points.
Right, and I mean, in your case, Anton, you already showed it as well. You're using a skill for that to basically use it. If I understood you right now, João, you're basically saying the code part is already working quite well. In the beginning, during the design phase, during the creative planning of new features, that's where we're still lacking some tooling. I'm guessing you're also building your design system in Figma, right? Have you already had the chance to basically use some AI tooling for the design phase as well, and can basically walk us through a bit what worked well so far and where we still lack some tooling?
Yeah, of course, because like using the components as a reference for the AI helps you build app pages that use the components basically, but not necessarily they follow the knowledge that's part of the guidelines, the conventions of designing the company, and the specific necessities across different markets and projects. So something we are investing on too is using multiple skills on how can we bridge that knowledge. So let's say I have my knowledge base on user testing or user interviews. How can I infer that and connect that as a knowledge base to better inform the creative part, so that the generated screen is not just a collection of random components around the screen, like executing a task, but they carry the design conventions we're looking for, and they protect the brand principles that we want to express through the app experience. So I guess this is extremely relevant to us, and we are building it because this requires discussion. This is mostly a cultural challenge prior to being an AI challenge, because you have to create this knowledge around the internal design community of what is our quality bar and what's the expected experience. Then you have the instruments, the knowledge to apply to the AI. We are very close to Figma. We've been partners for a while. We will be joining to the Config conference in the next couple of weeks. And something we started testing with them is Figma Weave. Figma Weave is used to create illustrations. So we are now understanding if it will be good or not for our use cases, because we have a very intense workflow on the design system side too, to generate illustrations. Today, our illustration system has more than 400 different assets, and there's an intense collaboration process with the different business units across Nubank to generate more of those. So far, our experience with Figma Weave on creating illustrations is like 50% good, I would say. Yeah, because the output, although we've been using our own illustrations library to inform the AI, to train it, the output is still a bit generic. So we miss like the brand touch, because our brand has a level of wit and unexpected aspects on the illustrations. So this the AI can't take yet. But we are very happy to collaborate with Figma on the evolution of Weave as alpha testers of that. And I really see that in a moment when we have more data to inform how the outputs for the AI, the creative part will also be accelerated quite a bunch. So, yeah.
Okay, interesting. And let's basically take this process a bit further. So we basically passed this creative step. The design was created. We then managed to give the design to the agent, and the agent was able to build it. And now it's time for the human to get in the loop to review what the agent built. And I'm curious, Seba, João, Anton already commented a bit on that. So what is the workflow that you are currently using to really ensure that what was built is actually good? So basically, how do you review your agent's work?
Yeah, of course. We started the QA phase of the agents pipeline, because each of the 10 agents that we've created, Julivan has led this project at Nubank. One part of the process is the QA phase, but at this moment, we were able to cover only the use case of visual match. So we have like the pixels analysis, like are we reaching 92% precision or not versus Figma, leveraging Figma MCP. But that's not sufficient when we think of the design quality governance, because we want to understand all of the levels of the design system. Because today we see the design system at Nubank as a pyramid. So we have the foundations with the different tokens structures and the theming infrastructure. Also what we call the sensorial layer, so how we apply sound and haptics that are coordinated to the brand experience. Then we have the individual components, the patterns, the conventions, and the templates. For us to be able to infer the design quality of the experiences, using components is not enough. Today, and this is a public data I can share, today we already have 90% nudes adoption on the app pages. So our design system coverage and adoption is pretty high, but that's not enough to infer design quality. So we want to evolve the agent that's responsible for the QA phase to go beyond pixel analysis and also test interaction, test accessibility, test these other sensorial aspects, and eventually also infer or analyze how a given experience is matching or not the brand principles, because this is also very important, because in the end of the day, the design system is also like the protector of the brand experience on the app as a touch point. So we want to make sure we have this complete set and this holistic governance on the design quality.
Okay, makes sense, Seba.
Yeah, so adding to that, because the agent loop, I think, is everything, like you mentioned. So
part of the loop when you need to like the test, like when I think when you test and Flutter, I hope you think patrol. I hope everyone knows patrol, and patrol has MCP. So you know this can be your part of the agentic loop, and we use that in every our project. This is part of the loop. However, there is also another thing that we use in design systems and in the agent loop as well, is that maybe you haven't heard, but we have created a tool called Marionette. It also has MCP. It also like completes the flow so that agent can actually click through your app, like go through your app. This also is a solution. Like if I mentioned in my previous talk that we want to copy solutions from outside of Flutter bubble. So you probably know the similar approaches from Claude. Cursor has a design mode, so the Marionette kind of helps you. It can navigate through the code, and this is also like you can give eyes to what your another instance of LLM produced, so you can see, you can click through, you can later test. So like this entire loop we cover in this way. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Are there any questions? Yeah, please.
Hi, my name is George. I'm from Aventus IT, and my question is talking about like closing the loop of agentic testing and design and layout. How do you approach different dimensions of different screens of Android? They have tons of different screen sizes. So obviously you can test one screen matching one Android, one Figma design, and you can say, okay, it's pixel perfect, it's good, but then you have 1,000 other devices. How do you approach that in both the design and the testing itself?
I can comment on this regarding the talk Anton and me were giving. So if you're using Widgetbook, we have a concept called add-ons. And one of the add-ons that you can use is a viewport add-on. And that add-on allows you to basically use whatever dimension you like. So if you would like to test it on a small iOS device, you can, for example, select the iPhone 8. If you would like to use it on a large Android device, you could select the, let's say, Samsung S20 Ultra or something like this, and you can then basically take screenshots using Flutter's golden tests from the widget or the screen in those dimensions. And if your designers, and here basically the question always is, okay, your design system, but also the screens that are then designed by the designer, do they already take different dimensions into consideration? So what we mostly see with our larger enterprise customers, there the designers definitely do that. If it's still a smaller company, quite often the designer only creates it for the default configuration, and then it's usually your job as a developer to basically decide, okay, if I create it now for a small device, I basically have to do the first iteration, and then it's usually an iterative collaboration with the designer to figure out if it still makes sense for the other dimensions. Do you have other approaches?
In our case, we are very intentional of having one unified design language across multiple platforms. So we do not personalize the design language or the specifics of the design system to only Android or to only iOS. This is also one of the things we like the most about Flutter, because Flutter also allows us to do this easily. And we leverage existing components from Material to also personalize most of the design system components. So I think it also depends on what's your intent and your strategy on your design language. Should it be integrated, or should it mimic or be closer to the native experience? So this is basically our brand call. Given that we want to have a highly personalized brand experience, we have opted to own our destiny in terms of our design language. So this is how we approach this sense. Eventually, there are some bugs we see like this happens only on iOS, this happens only on Android. Then we do the specific adjustments. Overall, all of the components, they are responsive, so they adapt to the screen sizes. All of our components too, they adhere to screen readers, best practices, and also text resizing. Text resizing or dynamic text is an essential feature for all of our components. Our dear friends from LeanCode have been helping us a lot to improve the level of quality on text resizing use cases on accessibility. And and we also try to make designers prototype on the worst case scenario. So they stress test the prototypes on Figma using the smallest screen sizes and also the largest text resizing features. So this also helps generate the culture.
Okay, awesome. So basically, we were touching a bit on different platforms. So that's basically a good chance now to introduce the last topic of this design panel, and that is that many, especially larger enterprise teams, are usually not only using Flutter in their tech stack, but they are also using very often JavaScript technologies for web. And then they need to make sure that their design systems basically not only work for Flutter but actually work cross-stack, so also for JavaScript and the other technologies that are being used. With that, Anton, would you maybe like to start how you are solving it currently at 1,5?
Yeah. So when we started building Harmonized, we specifically, or we started building it for our Flutter mobile apps, because that was like the most prominent like touch points for our B2C customers. But what we realized is that like all of the processes I showed like made us really efficient in building this. And so we wanted to bring like the same gains also to our other teams working, for example, with React. And this is then where really like a design system helps so much, because like you have this layer build up, like you have the foundations, your basic components that you can basically then rebuild. And then what João just said, like a design system is more than just components. It also like this templating and layouting, because obviously for a mobile app, it's a relatively simple thing. You put basically everything in a column. But obviously, if you have like a web dashboard, you have a lot more space and a lot more things to think about, which are decisions you can also obviously put into your design system. And what we also saw, which is quite cool in this agentic era, is that like lines between tech stacks sometimes blur. Like me as a Flutter developer, I may be working on some web product because that team has like less capacities, or we have other way around web developers in our Flutter app, or even designers starting to prototype also with agents, and having basically the same design system across the tech stack gives like a level of familiarity, because I may not be as fluent in reading like a reactive, but if I see like something sort of resembling a widget tree from Flutter and seeing this is a harmonized button and seeing like familiar code names, it helps me as a human in the loop to also judge what the agent is doing. And so I think it's worth looking at like processes on how design teams collaborate with dev teams and apply these learnings and best practices across your tech stacks.
Awesome. Does anyone have anything to add here? Okay. Oh, yeah, question. Great.
Hello, my name is Andrei. I'm from M12 Media, which is Kadokawa subsidiary. Regarding harmonized, one of the goal you mentioned is that it's make it more LLM friendly or agentic friendly, right? And my question is like, how exactly is it achieved, and how you, what kind of metrics do you use to make sure that it's actually friendly for LLMs, given the fact that material, for example, probably has significantly more training data. So yeah, this is basically the question.
Yeah, good question. I think it's always a process. So I really think what I mentioned earlier is that it's about documentation, like that the component clearly states what it should be used for. And then it's in the end a matter of familiarity for also the agent. Yes, the general training data does not have harmonized in it, but like when it pulls in the context and looks at how a different screen may be built, or even pointing it towards, hey, build me this new screen for some contract visualization, and I can tell it basically look at the other implementation, that already helps us in our experience. So it's about giving the context to know what it should be used, and that can be achieved, in my opinion, through documentation and additional examples.
Like there is maybe some kind of metrics in general, or like do you have some tests or something similar that you evaluated that LLM did well or not so well in the specific API that you designed or harmonized?
I mean, the most crucial thing is, I think, this lint rule, like this analyzer, that with that we can kind of assume that it will use the correct components. And then also it's obviously a visual check by designers to see, does it actually match what should have been built, as well as reading the code. So
Okay, we have time for one more question, I think.
Yeah, hello. My name is Emirhan Seren from Brain Rocket. I would like to ask a question to Michael after hearing from Sebastian. I believe in current era, most of the developers are using AI tools during the development. And is there any plan in Google to develop an AI tool specifically for the Flutter, which can see through the engine and the SDKs?
AI tools are very, very complicated. There are no plans for my team to specifically build such a targeted AI tool, because I think we would get it wrong, right? Like, it's very difficult. I want to build a layered stack. I want us to be able to expose all the information up to the wealth of agents being built out there. We started that work a long time ago. We have an MCP server, so we can pass out information to the agents about the state of analysis, what's going on in the rendering layer, all those things. And I think that's the best way we play in this ecosystem, is we enable the agents to get the strongest information they need, so that they can correct any mistakes they may make or fix any issues along the way. And I think that's how we can play in an open ecosystem and make sure that we don't end up hitching ourselves to the wrong cart in this AI race.
Okay, awesome. In case there are any more questions, we are all going to be around here the entire day. So please feel free to just talk to us. And again, to the audience watching online, we're also all active on social media. So feel free to send us a message. Thanks.